Good afternoon and welcome back to NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Wallops Island, Virginia. I'm NASA Public Affairs Officer Trent Parado. We're here for the second of two pre-launch briefings looking ahead to the Orbital 1 mission, which is launching tomorrow, Wednesday, January 8th at 1:32 p.m. from right here at Wallops. You heard in the previous hour a little bit about the science that's headed to the International Space Station aboard Orbital 1. So now we'll look ahead to the launch itself, hear a little bit about the readiness of both the station and the rocket and the range, and hopefully get a positive weather report. Again, you can find out more information about the Orbital 1 mission at www.nasa.gov/station. We have a number of distinguished guests joining us today. If you have any questions for them, you're watching online on NASA TV or streaming video, you can ask us your questions using the hashtag AskNASA on Twitter and Google+. Each of our presenters will give some brief remarks, and we'll follow with question and answer here in the audience and on the phone line. Here at Wallops, I have to my left Frank Culbertson, Orbital Sciences Executive Vice President. Next to Frank is Mike Kingston, Senior Vice President and Antares Program Director of Orbital Sciences. And we have Sarah Daugherty, the Wallops Test Director. But first, we'll begin at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where we're joined by the International Space Station Deputy Program Manager, Dan Hartman. Go ahead, Dan.
So you got me? Yeah, thanks, Trent, and good afternoon. As most of you know, we had planned to be here for the Cygnus launch in the mid-December time period, but we had some issues on board with our external thermal control system that needed to be addressed, and so we conducted a couple of EVAs from mid-December through Christmas Eve and took care of those thermal control issues, and we really appreciate Orbital standing down in that mid-December time period so we could work through that. We then had to overcome the high beta pass, which we came out of just this week, actually today, and so that basically opened up the window for us for the launch of Cygnus. Following the two EVAs, we need to do a lot of reintegration work with our interface heat exchangers to get our thermal loads back up to capability to reintegrate the Columbus module, the GEM module, and get our full research capacity back up in order. That was all successfully done. Following the R&R of the pump, it took about 2 or 3 days to integrate the system back to normal, and we've been in that state since. And like I said, we came through the high beta pass, and everything looks good. We did leave our old pump on the MSS system, and so in a subsequent EVA, we're going to have to go back out, relocate that old pump over to an ELC, and in the meantime, our engineers will figure out a way to potentially treat that old pump as a future spare. We're looking at ways to potentially add external valving to it to get away from that flow control valve issue that we had that gave us the initial problem. We conducted our ISS mission readiness review yesterday at the IMMT. I'm glad to say we have met all of our launch commit criteria. So from an ISS standpoint, we're good to go. We did our proximity checkouts. We've got the SSR mission, and a couple more onboard training with our crew members that'll take place between now and capture day. And so we'll get that into the timeline. And then we also plan to give our crew a couple days off between now and the critical activity of capturing and berthing of the Cygnus to Node 2 nadir. So our window will open up tomorrow, and I'm sure Frank will talk a lot more about the processing that's going on at the HIF and at the pad, as well as a weather report. We are really looking forward to this first orbital cargo mission. We're carrying about 1,500 kilograms of cargo, full load. We made no restrictions on what we placed on the manifest. If it was a critical need, we put it on there. We've got 400 or 500 kilograms of research flying, and so we're ready to get on with this mission. Looking forward to tomorrow afternoon. And following that, we're posturing ourselves to hit our stride with all of our new commercial cargo vehicles in the 2014 time period. We've got about 5 or 6 slated for this year. Orb1 will be the first. We'll get into some SpaceX and then basically kind of alternate back and forth between orbitals and SpaceX throughout the year. And so we're really looking to hit our stride in 2014 to meet our upmass needs. As far as a little bit of look ahead on the ISS, as you know, the Russians had a little bit of trouble with their EVA that they did after Christmas. They had some issues integrating a couple of their telescopes onto their segment. They brought those telescopes back in, And just as information, we're in discussions with them as far as carrying out a second EVA to put those back in place probably at the tail end of January, and I think we're targeting around the January 27th time period. We have 52P that'll undock on February 2nd, with then 54P arriving on February 5th. And following that, we'll have our SpaceX 3 mission, which is still slated for February 22nd. SpaceX had a very successful Falcon 1.1 launch yesterday, which paved the way for the February 22nd mission. So we're really looking forward to that. So to recap, we're really excited about the Orb-1 launch tomorrow, and we're ready to go. We're ready to capture it on Sunday. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Trent or Frank.
Thank you very much, Dan. Yeah, let's start with Frank Culbertson here at Wallops.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to Wallops. As you know, we were at the pad in December. A lot of us were actually on our way to Wallops when the decision was made to conduct the EVAs rather than continuing with the processing for the launch. I congratulate NASA on the success of those EVAs. The crew did a great job of replacing the pump very efficiently and quicker than they thought, but it's always a tough job to replace something that big. So we were happy to see that completed. It did give everybody a chance to take a little bit of time off over the holidays, and now we're back here again and out on the pad and getting ready to go. This is going to be a big week for spaceflight in the U.S., and I congratulate SpaceX on their successful launch yesterday. It's a big deal to be launching so many in 1 week. December was a very busy month. January is going to be busy, and I think you're going to see that the United States is going to continue to build up our launch rate and build up our capabilities to carry payloads, commercial satellites, and eventually humans into orbit. So keep an eye on what's going on, because you all probably will want to be a part of it someday, particularly the students that are watching. This will be the first of 3 contracted cargo delivery missions for us this year. We plan to also launch one in May and another in October if the schedule holds. And at the end of the year, we will have delivered approximately 5,500 kilograms of cargo to the space station commercially. This mission is going to carry 1,461 kilograms, not quite a full load, but pretty close. A lot of it was late load science, as Dan said, experiments, and you've been learning about those earlier today, many of you in the audience here. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of carrying that research to the space station and continuing to develop that facility as a laboratory and as an outpost in which we can conduct experiments, research, and learn more and more about living in space. It also, as we develop its capabilities, will be a stepping stone, at least figuratively, if not literally, to the rest of the solar system. We're on a tight schedule. Mike will tell you in a moment where we are in the processing, and we've got a little bit of margin left in the schedule, but not a lot. And we intend to continue to work through the night and bring the team in the morning to begin the countdown processing and launch at 1:32 tomorrow afternoon. We've got only a 5-minute window, so it's going to be a countdown that's going to have to go very smoothly for us. After launch, we will rendezvous in about approximately 3 days. 2.5 to 3 days. Well, actually, if we launch tomorrow, it'll be 3.5 days. And if we launch on Thursday, it'll be 2.5 days. So either way, we're going to arrive at the station on the 12th of January and deliver the cargo to the crew. Our rendezvous date depends on the phasing and where the station is when we launch, and how much we have to make up ground as we catch up with them. So it varies a little bit day to day, but we're trying to reduce the time as much as possible before arrival, so that the science arrives as fresh as possible. I want to emphasize before I hand it over to Mike again the importance of what we're doing. David Thompson and all of us at Orbital believe in developing the capability to fly payloads, spacecraft, and rockets into space on a commercial basis. We support government customers, private customers, and now we're supporting the International Space Station and its research. And we intend to continue growing that business, as do other companies. But what that means is that science will be more readily accessible to people on Earth because they can participate in what's going on in space. It also means the space station will continue to grow in relevance and in productivity, which will allow us to have a future for human spaceflight in this country and a future for our children to go into space to explore. If we keep the space station going, we will have that future, so it's important that we do that. Spaceflight is hard. It will never really be easy until we have some new technology that allows us to levitate off the surface of the Earth. And I hear they're working on that, but we don't have it. At any rate, every countdown we do is difficult. And as Mike will, did I run out of time? No. As Mike will point out, we've been dealing with challenges here. Space flight requires a lot of energy, a lot of people, a lot of complexity, and a lot of dedication. And that's what you see here, is the dedication of these teams here at Wallops, at the launch pad, and at Orbital to continue conducting space flight on a commercial basis and carry cargo to the International Space Station. Persistence is what really makes a difference in this. So with that, I want to introduce Mike Kingston, who is a program manager for our Antares program. Very proud of what Mike has done. Successful test flight last year, a successful demo mission, and he's leading a great team who worked really hard through a very cold night last night to continue the processing. So, Mike.
All right, thanks. I think I have a few photos to show that will kind of talk you through some of the major milestones that got us to the point we're at today, getting ready for a launch tomorrow. So if we can bring up the photos. The first one is a shot. You'll see the Cygnus spacecraft in the foreground of our horizontal integration facility over on the island here at Wallops. In the background, you'll see the fully assembled Antares rocket being lifted off of its production dollies and over on the right to the transporter erector launcher Strongback, which is the big white structure you see that's used to erect the launch vehicle on the launch pad. This photo was obviously taken, back in the early December timeframe before the first rollout in mid-December. We get the next one. This is a shot of the Cygnus mate operation. The Cygnus is rotated from its vertical position that you saw in the previous slide to a horizontal on a mating fixture, and then rolled up to the front of the Antares rocket, and our teams there are attaching it to the second stage of Antares. And on to the next one. This is a photo after that mate and a little couple of test operations. We go into the final cargo load. That's the team up on the stand there, loading the final cargo bags into the Cygnus spacecraft. After which we button the pressurized cargo module up for flight. Then next, after that, we slide the fairing over the top and encapsulate the payload, and that's really the final major step we accomplished prior to roll out to the pad. That takes us to the next one. This is a photo of that rollout operation. This was actually the first rollout in December. You can see it's at night, and that was 3 o'clock in the morning on December 17th. And you'll see the Antares rocket on the transporter erector on its way to the pad. The portable air conditioning unit behind it, keeping everything conditioned nice and cozy in all of the payload bays. And the next one is finally the erection of the rocket up onto the pad. So, where we are now, we actually went through that operation back in December, as we've already mentioned, before we stood down for the repairs on the space station. We're prepared to do that, to roll it back out Saturday. We ended up having to push that off a day to work a problem with the hydraulic system on the erector out at the pad. Got to roll out Sunday around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the team has been out there 24 hours around the clock since, getting the rocket connected to the pad, all the commodity lines installed, the thrust vector control system checked out through a very cold night last night. And then into today with final combined systems testing and the final closeouts and ready